The episode opens with Luminas meeting Gunther, who reports that Grandmaster Yuki secretly contacted Granbell about a month ago. The moment she hears his name, Luminas immediately realizes what they're after. If Yuki and Granbell are working together, then Libilius is almost certainly their next target. After all, Granbell isn't just a legendary hero. He also once led the 7 Days clergy, meaning he knows every corner of the Holy Empire. If anyone could exploit its weaknesses, it would be him. Thinking back, Luminas recalls the day she first met Granbell nearly 1,700 years ago. Although they met as enemies, Granbell suddenly stopped fighting and proposed an alliance instead. His goal was to protect humanity while allowing Luminas to rule Libilius in peace. Believing they could achieve more together than as enemies, Luminas accepted his offer. Looking back now, she realizes how much he's changed. The Granbell she once knew was full of hope and determined to create a better future for mankind. But the man he has become today is completely different. Before she can think about it any further, a maid arrives with news. Rimuru and his companions have finally arrived to Libilius. As they arrive, the children are amazed by the city's beauty. Hinata welcomes everyone while explaining that they're only waiting for the musicians before the celebration can begin. Not long after, the performers finally arrive. Soon, everyone gathers for dinner. The children can't stop praising the food, with Kenya especially enjoying every dish placed in front of him. Every time his plate is empty, the attendants quietly replace it with a fresh serving, leaving him even more excited. Meanwhile, one of the musicians nervously asks Rimuru whether they really deserve such generous hospitality. Rimuru reassures her that everyone in Libilius has been looking forward to their performance, and Hinata agrees. Hearing that, the musicians become even more motivated to give their best. After dinner, the children head off to bed. Before calling it a night himself, Diablo asks Rimuru if he has any plans. Rimuru realizes he hasn't spoken to Luminas yet. Just then, Xian informs him that a maid has arrived with service. Expecting nothing more than a warm drink, Rimuru turns around, only to find Luminas herself standing there in a maid outfit. Later, the two sit down together for a private conversation. Luminas jokes that she expected Rimuru to be more surprised by her disguise. Rimuru admits he definitely wasn't expecting the maid outfit. After a brief exchange, he asks where Hinata is. Luminas explains that Hinata is still asleep, as her body is adjusting after evolving into a saint. With that out of the way, Rimuru gets straight to the point. Why did she call him here? She reveals that Granbell Rosso has begun making his move. Meanwhile, Granbell gathers with the 5 elders for what he calls their final meeting. He declares that no matter the cost, Demon Lord Rimuru must be stopped here in Libilius. However, not everyone agrees. Johann and Marius argue that after recently losing Maria Bell, they should avoid making another reckless move and carefully rebuild their strength first. Granbell immediately rejects the idea. He reminds them that personal sacrifices no longer matter. As long as humanity survives, any price is worth paying. He then reveals that this will be his final battle. King Doran also attends the meeting but announces that his kingdom will remain neutral. Rather than joining the conflict, he'll simply observe everything from the sidelines. Granbell accepts his decision before turning back to Johann and Marius. He warns them that if they follow him, they will almost certainly die. Even so, neither of them hesitates. As members of the Rosso family, they pledge to remain by his side until the very end. To explain how he reached that point, Luminas begins telling Rimuru about Granbell's past. Long ago, Granbell traveled alongside Maria and Razul in search of a land where humanity could finally live in peace. His dream was to unite the Western nations and protect mankind from demon lords and every threat surrounding them. Maria smiles after hearing his ambitions. Despite not even being human, Razul continues fighting solely because he believes in Granbell's dream. Together, the 3 of them promise to build a peaceful world where everyone can live without fear. Luminas comments that Granbell's dream was incredibly naive. At that time, the Western nations were in complete chaos. De Gruel constantly fought over territory. Guy Crimson's demons attacked from the north. and Veldora's rampages devastated everything in their path. Even Luminas herself was viewed as another threat simply because she was a demon lord. So Granbell challenged her as well. The two clashed countless times. But over time, Granbell realized that Luminas had no desire to harm humanity. Once he understood they shared the same goal, the two finally joined forces. That alliance eventually brought lasting peace to the Western nations. Settlements slowly grew into villages. Villages became kingdoms. And the Western world gradually prospered. Luminas then reveals that from that point onward, Granbell lived two separate lives. Publicly, he remained the legendary hero. Behind the scenes, he secretly served as the leader of the 7 Days clergy. Luminas continues her story by recalling one of the most painful moments in Granbell's life. Years after peace had finally begun to spread across the Western nations, the prince of a neighboring kingdom was arranged to marry Princess Isabella. Everything appeared peaceful. But behind the scenes, someone was plotting against them. A minister, furious that his own ambitions had been ruined, secretly met with a mysterious demon. The demon handed him a special weapon capable of piercing even a saint or a hero. The wedding ceremony soon began. When the minister asked where Granbell was, Maria explained that he had been delayed while mediating a dispute between neighboring countries. But before Granbell could return, a massive explosion tore through the capital. Demons suddenly flooded into the city. Watching the chaos unfold, the minister quickly realized something was wrong. This wasn't part of their agreement. He had only wanted Granbell dead, not the entire city destroyed. Meanwhile, Maria immediately evacuated the minister to safety. She instructed the minister to help evacuate everyone while she stayed behind to hold the demons back until Granbell arrived. But fear got the better of him. Realizing Maria had discovered his involvement, instead of helping, he decided to silence the only witness. Not long afterward, Granbell finally returned. He immediately defeated the remaining demons. One of them even mocked him, revealing that it wasn't the demons who had killed Maria. It was a human. Without another word, Granbell erased the demon on the spot before rushing to Maria's side. Refusing to accept reality, he desperately tried to save her. He even promised to ask Luminas to heal her. But Maria already knew it was too late. With her final strength, she smiled at Granbell. She reminded him that humans are fragile. That's why someone must continue protecting them. She entrusted that responsibility to him, before peacefully drawing her last breath. Cradling Maria in his arms, Granbell made a solemn vow. No matter what happened, he would continue protecting mankind. Luminas explains that Maria's death changed him forever. From that day on, Granbell disappeared from the public eye. Hearing everything, even Rimuru can't help but admire him. Despite everything he'd endured, Granbell never abandoned his duty. But Luminas quickly reminds him not to underestimate his opponent. Granbell isn't just a legendary figure. He's incredibly powerful. In fact, she believes he's even stronger than the previous generation of demon lords. Rimuru jokingly asks if that means he's stronger than Hinata. Luminas answers without hesitation. Yes. That's exactly why she refuses to involve Hinata. Diablo then asks the question everyone's been thinking. If Granbell has remained quiet for all these years, why is he moving now? Rimuru doesn't believe this is simply revenge for Maribel's death. There has to be another objective. The moment Luminas mentions Yuki's alliance with Granbell, Rimuru lets out a tired sigh. Once again, Yuki has found his way into the middle of everything. Luminas warns that Rimuru himself may already be one of their targets. Rimuru nods in agreement. At this point, he realizes there's no avoiding Yuki forever. Sooner or later, he'll have to settle things with him once and for all. The next morning, Hinata takes the children on a tour around Libilius. As they admire the city, they eventually notice children around their own age already working throughout the streets. Curious, they ask why none of them are in school. Hinata explains that everyone in Libilius is considered equal under the teachings of Luminism. From a young age, every citizen contributes to society in their own way. Although everyone is treated equally, Chloe can't help feeling that something is missing. Hinata notices Chloe's reaction and smiles. She admits that's exactly why she wants to change things. Ever since arriving in this world, she's wanted to create a place where everyone can truly live the life they choose. Hearing that, Chloe smiles back. She says she'd like to help too, instead of leaving everything for someone else to carry alone. Elsewhere, Leon Cromwell suddenly wakes from a familiar dream. Once again, he sees Chloe calling him. Before disappearing from his reach. It's a memory that has haunted him for years. Before he has time to think about it, one of his subordinates rushes in with urgent news. The yellow primordial has vanished. Leon is stunned. The gateway connecting the demon realm has been destroyed, and John is nowhere to be found. After all, someone as reckless as John would never disappear without a reason. Leon can't figure out whether she returned to the demon realm, or whether something even more unusual has happened. Just then, another report arrives. According to the information they received, Rimuru has secretly transferred the otherworldly children from Tempest to Libilius after reaching a hidden agreement with Luminous. The moment Leon hears it, he knows something is wrong. He knows Rimuru well enough to believe he would never do something like that. Someone is deliberately feeding him false information. Realizing this, Leon orders his men to keep a close watch on the messenger who delivered the report. Leon knows someone is trying to lure him toward Libilius, and if he acts recklessly, he'll be walking straight into their trap. Even so, if Chloe is truly there, he can't afford to ignore the possibility. Leon decides to head for Libilius himself. At the same time, Yuki's group receives confirmation that Leon has begun moving. Exactly as expected, Yuki smiles. Now that Leon is involved, Granbell's plan is progressing perfectly. Misha points out that Leon will almost certainly become suspicious of whoever leaked the information. Yuki simply shrugs. It doesn't matter. By the time Leon discovers the truth, all the blame will already point toward the Rosso family. With Rimuru, Leon, and Luminas all gathering in the same place, chaos is inevitable. Determined not to miss the opportunity, he announces that he'll personally head to Libilius. Meanwhile, Granbell returns to his private chamber, where Maria's body has been lying in bed for centuries. Standing beside her, he quietly reflects on the promise he made after her death. With a calm expression, Granbell places his hand on Maria and begins chanting an ancient spell. As the ritual progresses, his own body rapidly ages and weakens, as if the spell is consuming his life force. Then, the impossible happens. Her eyes slowly open. Looking at her, Granbell declares that after everything this world has taken from him, he no longer cares what becomes of it. And with Maria mysteriously awakened from the death, the episode comes to an end. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.